Hey gang, welcome back to another episode of Chicken Skin Moments from the Bible with Pastor Dain. And I gotta tell you, today is one of my all-time favorite Bible stories. Not only is it just a great story, but sort of the way God revealed it to me was kind of fun as well. And I've been so looking forward to sharing it with you. It's the story of Obed-Edom the Gittite. Now, you know who that is, right? No, I know. Almost nobody knows. Almost nobody knows who this guy is. Now, when I first discovered Obed-Edom the Gittite, I was using his story when I would do house blessings. You know, someone would say, hey, could you come bless our new house? And yeah. And then later on, I went to go prepare a sermon about Obed-Edom, and I dug deeper into his story, and I found even more cool stuff. And that's what I get to share with you today. So let me tell you the story first of Obed-Edom the Gittite. Well, it goes all the way back to the Old Testament. And this is at a time when the Israelites are always warring with the Philistines. And during one of their battles, the Philistines captured the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the Ark of the Covenant is that box, you know, the one that caused so much trouble for the Nazis and Raiders of the Lost Ark, because it is where the presence of Yahweh, where God dwells, right? And so they built, the Israelites built a big tabernacle around it. In any case, they lost the ark, the presence of God. And the Philistines take it home. And if you're familiar with that part of the story, they stick it in a temple with one of their pagan gods. I believe it was Baal. And, they wake up in the morning and Baal has fallen on his face. And it causes all this trouble for the Philistines. They break out in boils. And so they contact Israel. And they're like, take this Ark of the Covenant. Take your God back, And the Israelites, being smart, they say, yeah, but it'll cost you. And they actually make the Philistines pay money to give the ark back to the Israelites. So the Israelites get the ark back with a bunch of bucks, and they put it in the house of a guy by the name of Obed-Edom, who is a Levite priest, which is, pretty legit because, if the Ark of the Covenant's going to be somewhere, that's a good guy to leave it with. And he has it for 20 years. Then here's what happens. King David comes into power, and he's like, why is the Ark of the Covenant at this guy Abinadab's house? We need to bring that up to Jerusalem and build a temple for the Ark of the Covenant where God can dwell, where, the temple is in Jerusalem, right? But there's a catch. They go down to go get the ark from Abinadab, and they mess it up. You see, God had given very specific instructions about how the ark was to be carried. You're supposed to put these two long poles, right, through the loops on the ark, and only Levite priests were to carry it. But David, guys, put the Ark of the Covenant on an ox cart. And they're driving along in the ox cart, and it shifts and it starts to fall over. And this poor guy named Uzzah, who meant well, he sees that the Ark of the Covenant is going to fall off the ox cart, and he reaches out to steady it. However, you're never supposed to touch the Ark of the Covenant because a holy, holy, holy God cannot tolerate sinfulness or whatever. And Uzzah gets fried on the spot. Kind of a bad deal for Uzzah, right? And this makes David very afraid. In fact, this is what it says in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 9. David was afraid of the Lord that day and said, how can the ark of the Lord ever come to me? He was not willing to take the ark of the Lord to be with him in the city of David. Instead, he took it aside to the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. Now, let me explain something interesting. Obed-Edom the Gittite is a Philistine. He's like one of the bad guys. He's one of the guys that has been, the nation that's been at war with the Israelites forever. So can you imagine this scene? Here's King David. It says he's got about 1,000 soldiers with him. He is the famous slayer of Philistines, right? And he walks over to this guy's house, knocks on the door. You can imagine Obed opens the door. King David, yeah, and all your 1,000 men. And David probably says something like, hey, we got a problem here. You see this box over here? Could I leave this in your garage for a little while? I got to leave it here. Would that be cool? Now, of course, what is Obed-Edom going to say? No, get out of here. But now there's King David and his 1,000 guys. Say, yeah, sure, yeah, put that box over there. And David must have said something like, oh, by the way, you're not going to want to touch that box because, well, you see that smoking pile of flesh over there? Yeah, his name was Uzzah. Yeah, he touched the box. You're not going to want to touch the box. So he leaves the Ark of the Covenant with Obed-Edom, a Philistine, Obed-Edom the Gittite, and David takes off. Now, here's what's interesting. As it turns out, it says, the Ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite for 3 months, and the Lord blessed him and his entire household. Now, here's the interesting thing. We don't know exactly how God blessed Obed-Edom the Gittite and his entire household, but if we know anything about Old Testament blessings, we can take some pretty good, and I'm going to say, educated guesses about how God might have blessed Obed. First of all, I bet his wife got pregnant immediately, because that's an Old Testament blessing. It probably meant that all his flocks got pregnant, all his sheep got pregnant, his crops probably flourished. By the way, it said his whole household got blessed. That means all his servants got blessed, all their wives got pregnant. Everything they did went well. In fact, if I know anything about Old Testament blessings, he began to bless all the people around him. Everything was going great for Obed-Edom the Gittite. I even kind of in my own imagination, imagine that one morning he comes out into his living room and all his pagan gods are on their face, just like what had happened 20 years earlier in the temple. And he's like, what? He puts them up, and the next morning he comes out, they're all down on their face. And then he ends up hanging out maybe next to the ark, like, having his morning quiet time with the ark. We don't know. We just know that he was blessed. And so that's kind of the way I envision it. But you got to wonder, what was David thinking? Well, good that you asked, because then it says in verse 12, now King David was told, the Lord has blessed the household of Obed-Edom and everything he has because of the ark of God. So David went down and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David with rejoicing. I know a lot of you know that story. David danced in front of the ark. But did you ever wonder, what about Obed? Like, was he bummed that David came and grabbed the ark? And that's as far as I ever got in the story of Obed-Edom the Gittite when I did house blessings, because I would talk about what a blessing it is to have the presence of God in your house. But when I was preparing that sermon, I finished my preparation on a Friday night. And that night, right as I got into bed, I was thinking about it. I realized, whatever happened to Obed-Edom the Gittite? David comes and he takes the ark away, and he takes the ark up to Jerusalem. Was Obed bummed? Well, I bet he was bummed, because he probably took all the blessings with him. And then I wondered, well, whatever happened of Obed? And I realized I had never gone to look in the Bible to look up Obed to see if he appears anywhere else. So the next morning I wake up, it's Saturday morning, I come here to my office and I immediately look up to see if Obed appears anywhere else in the scripture. And you can tell by my smile, he does. It's so cool. So now I want to tell you the rest of the story. According to the book of Chronicles, here's what happens. David takes the Ark of the Covenant up to Jerusalem and he tells God, I'm going to build you a temple. And God says, no, you are a man of violence. You will not build the temple for me, but your son, Solomon, he will build the temple. And so David, like any good control freak king, is like, okay, Solomon, my son, you're going to build the temple. God won't let me, but I'm going to tell you exactly how to build the temple. You will build the temple exactly like I would if I could build the temple, because I'm a good control freak. So he tells Solomon exactly it's going to be this big and that wide, and you're going to put this and that. And then he gets down to the part of, and here's who is going to serve in this temple you're going to build. And guess who occurs there in 2 Chronicles, I think it's in chapter 11, 1 Chronicles, sorry, chapter 26. The guy I want you to put in charge of all the temple treasury is this guy by the name of Obed-Edom the Gittite. And it says, the one whom God greatly blessed, and then it lists Obed's 8 sons. And so, because we know that from the story in 1 Chronicles chapter 26, we can do the math. Obed-Edom the Gittite followed the ark up to Jerusalem and lived there for many years and became a believer, became a follower of Yahweh, and became such a man of high esteem that years later, when they began to build the temple and they put guys in charge of the temple, they gave him one of the most prestigious jobs. Imagine that, a Philistine convert to Judaism who wanted to be near the presence of God. They gave him the job. Actually, he and his 8 sons, see, he did get blessed. His wife did get pregnant, with guarding all the treasury of the temple. Isn't that a great story? And what can we learn from this? Well, you see, back then, God's presence dwelt in the temple and people rallied around it. But you understand, in the new covenant, after Jesus, after the day of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit comes and indwells us. We are the temple of God, and God indwells us. And so Our version of being like Obed, which is to seek God and to seek to be near him, is to spend time with God and to actually follow God. As Obed-Edom followed God to Jerusalem, we follow in the footsteps of Jesus, seeking his will for our life. And in response, we receive the New Testament version of blessings. In the Old Testament, it might meant your wife got pregnant, your sheep got pregnant, and your crops did well. But the New Testament blessings are in Galatians 5:22. Love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, self-control. All these things are the new spiritual blessings that we get to enjoy when we enjoy the presence of God, just like Obed-Edom the Gittite. Hope you enjoyed that story. Got great more stuff coming up. Check out some other videos, what have you. Have a blessed day and stay near to God. Hey gang, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends, write your congressman, whatever you got to do. But thanks for watching the video. You're going to want to check out this next video as well. And other than that, we'll see you next time. God bless.